What's going on, guys? Yes, it is dark. It is the end of shift. This is the second time I'm trying to record this, but I chose to do it in the dark, not because it was a initial thought. There was too much rain on the way here, and I couldn't hear myself when I was trying to listen to it. So I know you guys wouldn't be able to hear shit. But, first and foremost, happy Halloween. So, let's do a quick pocket dump. In the dark. Kind of. Kershaw bare knuckle, 20 CV. This is the green aluminum scales. This did not come like this. I had a lot of detent lash in my 20 CV version. Turns out most of it was coming from the scales. So in the scale swap, I ended up keeping the 20 CV blade in the 14C28 scales. Sold the 14C in the black scales for like 20 bucks on Reddit because some guy's like, all right, I'll take the knuckle lash or whatever, the bare lash or something, because I told him I had crazy detent lash. Yeah, this is quickly becoming one of my favorite beater knives. I'm actually going to this quite frequently, and there's just an allure to this knife. Really enjoying it. Second, my EMP Designs Nimble. This fits in my fifth pocket, though it is not a fifth pocket knife. I've been carrying my Berg Blade Slim lately, and I switched over to the Nimble because they're about the same size in dimension, kind of, right? The Berg Blade Slim's a little bit bigger as far as closed position, right? Berg Blade Slim does not fit in my fifth pocket, though. This one does. And then I got this in hand, and like, all of a sudden, I think I appreciate the ergonomics more than I did before. Like, time away from this knife made me truly think this thing is badass. I freaking love this knife again. Not that I didn't love it before, it was just that it felt good to me. This now feels great. In the choke up position, I'm just like, oh my goodness, this is really good. All right, it's not what this is about though. So, the reason we are in the dark, and we're gonna stay in the dark, I am doing a Halloween special, and I'm gonna tell a ghost story. Keep looking at the camera. Keep doing that. I hate that. I'm going to tell a ghost story, okay? I'm actually leaving work right now. The roads are dead. It's like 12 o'clock at night. So what a perfect time to tell a friggin' ghost story, right? So let me preface it with there's going to be no more knife content in this video. If you are interested in only knife content, peace. And the rest of you that are just here to hang out and kind of chill out, hear some cool Halloween shit, then here we go. The ghost story I am about to tell is a real-life ghost story. Whether or not it was a ghost, I cannot tell you, but I can tell you I got something weird. I'm going to preface it with a lot of pre-story to kind of add some credibility to kind of what went on. All right? Let's just jump into it. So the long story short about me and who I am is I am somebody that once I get into something, I dive 150% head first into it. With knives, I liked knives, but I never really did anything more than go to Tractor Supply. And then one day, I just flipped a script. I just started buying way too many freaking knives. After about a month, I created a YouTube channel because I wanted to justify all the knives. And then a year and a half later, here we are. Have a very relative understanding of hardness, chemistries, ergonomics, materials, all that, right? I feel like because I jump so headfirst into it, and I do with all things, I learn very, very quickly, but it also kind of occupies who I am in the moment, who I am for that phase, you know? When I was younger, first it was, I got really big into rollerblading, so I was into half pipes and stuff, and then I blew out my knee, and I kind of slowly got away from that. And then I got really big into paintball, and I went semi-pro, and I had a lot of fun there, and that was just a good time, and I lived and breathed it. I pretty much lived with a paintball gun in my hand, not loaded, right? I didn't have any air on it or whatever. And then, you kind of get into, what did I get into after that? It was paintballing. Paintballing lasted a while. Even after I joined the Navy, I joined a team in California for a short stint. Played at a field and saw a team, and we ended up, kind of like minds kind of link up. So, I got into that. But then what I went to next is, I was working the midnight shift, and we started to get addicted to the show Ghost Adventures. Yes, I know. Judge it if you will. It's an entertaining show at the least, right? At the bare bones, it's an entertaining show. So we started watching it too much. We were on midnights. We're in the Navy. We're working on gear. We have it playing in the background while we're working. We actually had these roller carts that we would roll the freaking what we called, I don't know if I'm allowed to, I don't care. It was called an EOSU, an electro-optical sensor unit that basically went on an F-18 that was the infrared missile guidance system, if you will, the eyeball that saw the infrared and the alignments that lined up everything. We'd roll that card over to the computer and we'd be watching Ghost Adventures. Well, one day my buddy Zach and I, and kind of paint it even to a funnier perspective, my buddy Zach, he's a dude that kind of looks like an MMA fighter. He's jacked. He's relatively lean, or was relatively lean. He was big into football growing up. He grew up in Wisconsin, kind of that Wisconsin corn-fed motherfucker. Yeah, we're cussing in this one too, apparently. So he was big old boy. And so it was kind of funny because he always considered ghost hunting, I guess, as kind of like a nerdier thing, which, you know, as you get to be an adult, nerd's kind of a cooler term than it used to be as a kid. Like, getting called a nerd, you're like, that's right, I'm good at something, and you're not. Anyways, I like the term nerd as an adult. As a kid, it's like an insult. As an adult, it's kind of so you kind of associate with nerdier, though. You would assume like kind of like, you know, little bit, you know, leaner dudes that maybe 6 foot tall, but, you know, 130 pounds, like those types of dudes. No, this dude was jacked, so it kind of was cool to have like a dynamic. I had 2 more guys that were part of the group. I had my little buddy T. He was my little Mexican buddy. All these guys were in the Navy. We were all close buds. And then my buddy Brandon, who was from Clearwater, Florida. He was kind of like our resident. We were all 21, 22. He was 30-ish, so we called him old. But yeah, look at us now. Kind of like that level-headed guy, super relaxed, super chill, just really cool guy. So Zach, T, and Brandon and I, we got into ghost hunting. Well, they got into it kind of casually, but invested some money. We probably invested about $1,000 to $1,500 into the hobby itself between the 4 of us to buy a bunch of gear so that we can actually measure and quantify what we're trying to do. I went, as I normally do, and just dove headfirst into research. I just started looking up everything I possibly could, and it started back in the Sumerian times, looking up, you know, entities that the Sumerians called upon. As like, it's kind of the same concept as, if you're not familiar with what I'm referring to, the same concept as like the Greek gods, right? Well, the Greek gods are also translatable to Egyptian gods and Roman gods. And not all the gods are necessarily gods. Some of them are labeled as demons in certain mythologies and certain religious... Anyways, but they actually translate further and further up the chain to the point where a lot of them can be associated with different demons and such within the Christian faith and all that stuff. It's just kind of cool how everything links together, or can be linked together. Anyways, did all that research. And my purpose in researching this stuff is in ghost hunting and through the show Ghost Adventures. You aren't sure if you're going to run into a ghost or demon, or more than likely nothing at the end of the day. But, or if they even exist, right? That's the whole purpose of ghost hunting, is to figure out if there's something out there. And so then I did that. I started listening to exorcisms, and I just dove it was such a dark time. And I didn't feel dark about it, but like, I would have to stop listening at times because my hair would be standing up. I got to the point where as a man, I couldn't sleep. Like, it was like, you were kind of creeped out. You were just, it was really dark, but I forced myself to do it because I wanted to learn. So I'm diving into this, I'm going into that. And then you go into the different ways to do certain things, the different technologies, the different methods, you know, what to do, what not to do. And really what we were trying to do is, most of us were not religious, and in the show, which is our only knowledge source of this, is your only protection is religion and God and the heavenly faith, right? Not mocking it, I'm not religious, but because we're not religious, I wanted to arm myself with knowledge at the very least of what I was doing. Fast forward, we buy the gear, we start going out. We first started going out to, like, if you Google, we used the Google, and we got to certain places where in our area in California, there was like this apparent creek bed in the middle of nowhere that was supposedly haunted, right? And we spent, you know, maybe 15 hours there in total, got nothing. We went to assorted graveyards where they weren't necessarily haunted or not haunted. It was just a, coppers. what up? Oh man, somebody got busted. It wasn't necessarily like a haunted thing. It was more or less a, you know, it's a graveyard. You know, it's got to be where, if there's ghosts anywhere, that's where they're gonna freaking be, right? If I was a ghost, I would not hang out in the graveyard, but whatever. So we spent hours and hours there, and then we did some more research, and turns out most things that you find are just kids going on there and telling ghost stories. You know, it's kind of hard to decipher between people that take it serious and people that are just joking, which, if you're gonna do it, like, take it serious, because at the very least it's about the good time and the atmosphere that's created by taking it serious. If you're just joking, like, don't go out to places to disrespect stuff, you know. And so we kind of took that approach. We were going to be super respectful to, you know, the area, to the just everything in the environment. It wasn't part of like destruction. We weren't going there to be assholes. Although sometimes you try to just talk shit, which doesn't work anyways. So we found ourselves doing research, and turns out most of the places that are like supremely haunted by the, you know, and people that are like well known in the pseudoscience of the paranormal type of shit, basically document shit in places that you can't go. Like, you watch these ghost hunter things, you watch these ghost adventure things. If you ever wanted to get into it, you can't, because you can't go to these creepy ass places. They're all you have to go through so many chains to get into it, and the only reason that anybody's allowed into it is because they're on TV and the people are probably making money or publicity of some sort to go. The rest of them, us normal people, can't go there. So you got to find the ones that you can kind of go to without getting in trouble, or too much trouble rather. So we found this one graveyard that was amongst like the most haunted places in California, in Paso Robles. It's in the mountains of Paso Robles. That it basically, you have the small town of Paso Robles, and then you have mountains and wineries up in this mountain path. So like 45 minutes outside of Paso Robles, in the mountains. It's like a 45-minute drive up, right? You're going around mountains, and there's like one house per every quarter mile. Like, that's how far away society is at that point. And you get up there, and there's this big-ass graveyard. It's a 2-story graveyard, but it's old as shit. It's like 250 years old to my knowledge, if I remember correctly. Keep in mind, this is like 10 years ago, 12 years ago. And I first went there with 4 buddies. It was T, Brandon, Zach, and I. So you walk in, and there's these giant old iron gates that are just creepy. They're probably 40 foot long. It's just massive. And then you got this walkway on the side. So you kind of walk through the walkway, and we didn't even know the first time we were there, like, what's what and where's what and everything. So we're kind of just spending the first time that we're there getting acquainted with this place. Again, trying to be extremely respectful, not trying to, we're not the type of dudes that were out there. I mean, we're Navy dudes, so we had a lot of respect built into us through that. And, you know, so we looked around, we found like what we called the old gravekeeper's shack, which I don't know if that's a thing or not, but it looked like a, you know, it was like a freaking 10 by 10 shack, okay? Didn't really have anything in it. Might have been like a freaking outhouse at one point in time, I don't know. Walked around, just, you know, we would read each gravestone and kind of like, in our own way, pay respects to each gravestone, right? It wasn't like we'd stop each time, but we'd read each name out loud and you know, kind of like the date of birth, the date of death, what their names were, where their families were located in there, you know, how old they generically were by, you know, the basic subtraction of the years. And then we found the pathway to go up to the top portion, which was a much smaller portion, but you're right against the woods as you're walking around this pathway. And the pathway's maybe 8 foot wide, if that, maybe 6 foot wide. And it twists up, right? So you're basically going on the upper tier. Well, we get up there, and there's even older shit up there. Like, it's like way older. Like, there's like 250-year-old stuff that you're like, wow. We came across this one gravestone that we went to this place probably 15 different times, so keep that in mind too. Went to this one gravestone. Every single time we were there, it was a World War II veteran. We'd all have a moment of silence. It was kind of like a military thing. I don't know. But we wanted to pay the guy some respect. And that was kind of a part of this story. I know, I'm telling a really long prelude to a very short ghost story. But I want you guys to understand and paint a picture, right? So we're walking up this pathway. And this pathway is so creepy, and this is so in the middle of nowhere that as you're walking up this pathway, you can literally hear coyotes probably no more than 15 feet away from you. And you hear the yip, 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 like they're yipping and talking to each other. And you're like, dude, are these things gonna come attack me? Like, what the, you know? And so we stayed in the pack of us so that we wouldn't, you know, in case something were feeling a little froggy, wouldn't do it. Anyways, we get to the top, we see that gravestone, and then we get to the very back of this super dark, there's no lights. You're in the middle of the mountains. It's pitch black. We're using infrared cameras, so everything's kind of showing up green on our video recorders, and it's hard to see anything. It was interesting as hell. And so you get to the back of the gravesite, or the graveyard. All the way in the top left corner in the back, there's what I call an obelisk. Now, an obelisk to me is kind of like a little monument. It's maybe a memorial, but there was no body buried there. But the cool thing, imagine the Washington Monument, right? That very tall thing. Instead of being, 40 stories tall or whatever that is, this obelisk was maybe 8 to 10 feet tall. About, at its base, maybe 4.5 to 5 foot wide, and it was a perfect square going up. And then it had pillars around it that had a fence, kind of like a little fence, but it had an opening. So there was clearly a purpose to this obelisk. I didn't know what it was. We never knew. It was kind of hard to find any information that wasn't like haunted related to this, because it's just a graveyard that's super old, and most of it seemed family-ish because it's out in the middle of nowhere. So it's probably not too many different families associated with it, which you saw from the names and the gravesites too. Well, on the obelisk, in this really dark green wax, was an upside-down pentagram. Those of you familiar with any of this type of stuff know that an upside-down pentagram is a five-starred, basically a five-pointed star with a circle surrounding it. Right side up, the point would be pointing up. Upside down, the point is pointing down. Apparently, there's a very benign definition and association with the pentagram at right side up. Most people assume that the right side up pentagram's negative. It's not. It's apparently a lot of good things. But the upside down pentagram is associated with the devil and demons and all this other stupid shit, right? Well, it made your skin crawl because you're in the middle of the dark. I just tried to paint the atmosphere for you to kind of get the feeling of what we felt. You made your skin crawl. You see this pentagram and you're like, what the? And it was fresh. Like, that's even creepier, right? It's fresh. Somebody was up here painting an upside down wax pentagram. It was probably kids, but when you paint that atmosphere for yourself, your skin's already standing, your hair's on edge, you got goosebumps all over the place, and we're kind of tweaking out, right? So we got nothing that night. There was no evidence of anything. We found the pentagram. We kind of freaked out. We didn't leave. That's where we set up camp. But not camp. We only stayed for 2-3 hours at a time each time. But that's where you put your focus on, because it's odd. It's weird. It's probably the weirdest thing in the gravesite itself. So we go home. Keep in mind, this is a 3-hour drive. Like, we're taking this super serious. Like, we have rules. Nobody's allowed to talk when the other person's talking. When you're filming, you move as slow as possible when you're moving the camera, so there's no like jerking motions. You try to eliminate anything that could give you a false reading of something. We don't even know what the hell we're trying to read. We're just trying to be whatever. So we go home. It's a 3-hour drive. We took some recordings. I have an auxiliary port in my car that I would take my EVP thing out and I would plug it into the auxiliary port, and during those 3 hours we would crank up the volume and we'd listen to this creepy ass freaking noise the whole way home, listen to ourselves talk, try to listen to the background, see if we heard anything. Because when I'd get back to my barracks room, I had an audio software system that I can dissect the whole thing. I can see little wavelengths in there that I can dissect it and amplify it and try to make it better to hear. And it wasn't a super high quality one, so it didn't come out as like super quality pieces, but it allowed me to do it for relatively cheap. Okay, so that's the picture of where the incident happened, but I didn't tell you guys the incident yet. You guys are going, holy shit, I'm looking at it now. It's 19 minutes. You gave me so much backstory. I had to paint the picture, guys. And I had to paint it as also, the reason I'm painting it is I want you guys to get into the mood. I want you guys to feel the darkness. I want you guys to feel the atmosphere of where we are, how serious we took it. It wasn't joking to us. Like, we didn't laugh about this. It was entertainment, but not in like a funny way. And so, bing. So, you know, our moods, our feelings are going into it. It's dark. It's a 3-hour drive through the freaking Central California sucks to drive through. There's nothing there. It's just fucking farmland and shit. So, like I said, we went back to this place about anywhere from 12 to 15 times. I don't remember the specific number, but I do know our total ghost hunting, not just at this place, of EVP footage alone, I had over 60 to 70 hours of footage, and I caught nothing. All right, absolutely nothing. I dissected everyone with that software. Every night I was up till 4 o'clock in the morning with my headphones on. They're gaming headphones. They cover your ears, and you're like, all right, and I'm in tune, and it's creepy. But I got nothing. Went to a bunch of different places, got nothing. So one night, I'm getting to the story. This is the story. One night, Zach and I are bored at the barracks. We don't feel like drinking because we're like all drank out, I guess you could say. And we decide to just him and I go ourselves. We're like, Brandon and T don't need to go. It's fine. They're out of town or whatever the case. I don't remember why they didn't go. So Zach and I were like, let's go. So we start driving, and it's fun. You stop by Whataburger or whatever on the way. You kind of get some. It's a fun thing to do, and it's relatively cheap, short of 6 hours worth of gas, which at the time wasn't as bad as it is now, although it was California. So we get there. You pull up, and there's no parking lot. Right, so you just kind of pull off to the side of this road that's already like a single lane road. You got about a 3-foot like shoulder of gravel that you pull off onto the side. We get out. Well, in between that time and the last time that we were there, I did more research, and apparently, and this is probably one of those kid lore things, there's supposed to be this dark entity that guards the gate going in. We never got anything of it, but of course Zach and I, kind of being wannabe badasses, we walk through the gate and we're talking shit. We're like, hey, if you're here, motherfucker, come on out, you know. And you're like, you try to do the ghost adventure thing where you're like provoking it, right? Which is whatever. I'm not saying it's dumb or not, because it didn't do anything. But you walk in and you're talking shit. It's dark though. Zach can't see anything. I got the IR camera, and we're looking, right? I'm looking through the camera. I'm like, all right, Zach, head to your left, man. Watch out. There's a couple things there. You know, watch your footing. Let's go into the Gravekeeper shack first. So we go into the Gravekeeper shack, which we never really spent any time in because we don't really know what it is. It's just like a little shed, basically. So we go in, and Zach's first, and I got this on camera. This was hilarious. I wish I had it here. I don't have any of the footage anymore, of course. Typical story, right? Zach walks into this Gravekeeper shack, and he lets out the most blood-curdling scream. And I'm not making any of this up, guys. I'm not embellishing this. I've told this story several times because it's my only ghost story to tell. He lets out the most blood-curdling scream. And it's this Jack dude. Remember, I painted a picture of Zach. He's jacked in a Mayfire. And it makes you flinch, right? You're like, oh, shit, what the... You're behind him, so you're a lot less scared because you don't even know what he's screaming at. Well, I'm like, what, dude, what? And he's like, dude, something just hit my head. Well, literally a bat, when he walked in, just flew out, bing, bounced off his dome. I got it on camera. Boing, off his dome and flew out the door. Absolutely hilarious, though, because I called him out on it right away. I'm like, dude, you're this jack motherfucker screaming like a little bitch. Funny, dude, funny. All right, so nothing, you know, we go in there, we record, there's nothing. You go in there and you sit down on the little bench and you just try to record for 30 minutes. Sometimes it's boring, but the atmosphere, remember, you're already creeped out. It's already that like kind of haunted house, haunted woods atmosphere. And so the boring part of it is entertaining as long as you don't, that's another reason why you don't joke around and laugh and stuff, because you want to be kind of creeped out. That's the whole point of going. It's an adrenaline rush. So we explore the whole bottom of the graveyard, nothing. We go up to the top, and he and I are walking, and there's these freaking coyotes yipping next to you, and yip, 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 yip. They're still there. They're so creepy. And then you hear one on one side of the graveyard, then you hear one on the other side of the graveyard, and they're freaking talking to each other, like you're surrounded. And that was the feeling, actually. You are surrounded by coyotes. Like, you can hear it. It was really dumb on our part in hindsight to go. So we're walking up. Yep, yep, yep. We go up to the World War II veterans gravesite. We have a moment of silence. You know, we say, hey, you know, thank you for your service, that type of stuff, and thank you for what you did for our country. And we said that every time. It was just kind of our ritual. We make our way to the obelisk. And what do we see? Or no, not what do we see, but we get there, and all of a sudden I'm starting to feel this tapping on my forehead. And you don't know what it is. It's a bug, but it didn't feel like a bug. It felt like a light, like somebody barely touching almost the hairs of your head without touching your skin, like you can feel it, but you can't feel it. And I'm like, what the hell? So you treat everything as if it's real. As if it's a ghost, if you will, or whatever entity or the supernatural phenomenon that you're associating it with. And you treat it as a ghost, and you say, okay, hey, if you're tapping on my forehead, you know, do it again. And ironically, I would say do it again, and it would start doing it again. It was weird. Like, it was kind of following a command, but you're not sure if it's your mind. You don't know if it's your mind playing tricks on you. You don't know if you're making it up, because at that point, you're already creeped out, and you know you're not lying to yourself that you feel it, but you're not sure if it's more than it is, or you're making it more than it is. And so I kept saying, hey, do it. And I got it to feel on my forehead like maybe 5 times. And so I go, you know what? Zach's like, dude, what? You know, I told him, and he's like, holy shit. And I'm like, hey, if you're here, you know, do it to Zach. Like, go tap him on the forehead. And again, this might be placebo effect, the sociology of the effect, you know, something like that. But he started feeling it. And then I said, I changed it up because I wanted to change it up to see if we were feeling something that we were both feeling as like just like one of those weird phenomena. And I go, all right, why don't you touch the back of Zach's head, right? And no more than 5 seconds after I said that, Zach came and did it to me. That's the only reason I know how it felt. Like somebody brushed the tips of your hair straight up on the back of his head. And we were like, oh, shit, right? It was like fucking nuts. It's crazy. And excuse the language. I mean, this is a ghost story, right? This is adults. This isn't meant for kids. So the rest of the night, we get nothing. We go back home, 3-hour drive. Check the EVPs. We check the video cameras. Nothing. But because of that experience, we wanted to go back. Because he and I know we felt something, whether or not it was something supernatural or just something that he and I were kind of manifesting ourselves, right? So we get Brandon and T, and we're like, yo, this is what happened. Let's go back and check this shit out. Part of the reason is Zach and I were getting kind of creeped out to go by ourselves, safety in numbers, right? That's how serious we took it. We talked about it. We didn't tell Brandon and T we were a little creeped out though. So we go back the next week. Might have even been the next night. And we walk our asses straight up to that obelisk, because that's where it was happening. Remember, the first night we were there, that's where the pentagram was, and it was still there. I bust out my recorder, and it's like a little, just like one of those little digital recorders, and I say, hey, if you were the one tapping us on the head, talking with Zach and I last time, speak into the red light. You know, and I went on and asked a couple more questions. We left the recorder there. We go down to the bottom of the graveyard. We kind of left it just recording. And we come back up, we pick it up. We don't experience anything that time, right? You know, well, we're driving home, and we're listening to the recording on the way home. I'm getting the chills telling the story, guys, because this is how real it is to me. And I don't know what it means. I don't have a label for it, but... So we're driving home. There's 4 of us in the car. I'm in my little Saturn Ion that I got in high school, you know. Have my auxiliary cord plugged in, and we pop it on, and we say, you hear me. And I was kind of the leader of the group just because it required somebody to kind of lead the pack. That's all it was. It wasn't that I wanted to be the leader. It was that I kind of controlled, like, I was like the regulator, you know. It made sure that we tried to keep it as clean as possible when it came to messing with the footage or anything. So, plug it in. The very first thing you hear, hey, if you were the one that was here with Zach and I last week or yesterday, whenever it was, and you were tapping us on the forehead, you touched the back of Zach's head, I want you to talk into this red light. This is a recorder And that red light is where you talk to. The microphone's right there. The four of us in the car talk to that red light. Yeah, I know. I'm not shitting you guys. Like, and we have strict rules. Nobody else is allowed to talk when the other person's talking. Like, we took it very serious. And say, hey, talking to that red light. Yeah, I know. Shit. Right? I paused it right there. We all, hair standing up right now. I wish I could show you. The hair's literally standing up. It did. And everybody in the car went silent. And all at the same time, what the? Holy shit. You know, and we're going berserk. Like, oh my God. So, it's incredible. We had, like I said, 60, 70 hours of footage of audio recordings, and that's what we get. We've gotten a couple ones where we thought they were real, but we were able to say, hey, you know, basically because I was recording on camera and the recorder at the same time, I was able to basically say, no, that was me. I actually screwed up one time. I told somebody I had to take a piss, and in the background it sounds totally different on the recorder. It sounds kind of creepy. All you hear is, and then like you hear it at the same time in the camera. I'm like, I gotta take a piss, right? So, yeah, I know, right? Back in the moment. And then the next thing I say is, were you the one that was tapping Zach and I on the forehead? Uh-huh. Keep in mind, we don't hear this with our ears. Like, this isn't anything we heard with our ears. This is hearing it through the car. Talking to the red light. Yeah, I know. Were you the one tapping us on the forehead? Uh-huh. And I don't remember what else I asked it. Whatever. I don't know. Hey, I said something else, and you just hear, yup. This thing was responding to us. It was responding to me. Again, not in the moment, on the recorder. I'd love to tell you that there was something about that got bigger, deeper, but there wasn't. That was it. That was all we got. No video, no photos, just a recording. And we heard it literally like minutes after we left, you know, in the car. So I get back to the room and I'm dissecting this, and you're kind of going all creepy, super creepy, because I'm sitting in the dark at like 2 a.m., 3 a.m., you know, in a barracks room that's empty because my roommate's out to sea, you know, and empty room, it's dark, it's an old ass barracks. Yeah, I know, and you're listening to it, you're like, what the fuck? So I expand everything. I expanded on my audio files, and I could see more waves later on in the video. I'm sorry, the audio recording. I could see the waves. And anytime you see a wave, there's a sound. Most of the time it's leaves brunching. You can hear the yipping of the coyotes. You can hear us talking all the way on the bottom of the graveyard, which is like maybe 150 yards away. You can hear it in the recording. That's how strong this thing was. And the yeah, I know, and that thing was, yeah, I know, it was right into the microphone. You could tell it wasn't in the distance. It was in the microphone talking. So I'm going through the recording, I'm like, holy shit, you know, that's crazy. And I'm trying to chop it out, and I had it chopped out. I sent it out to my buddies, and it was like everybody had like a little recording of the, yeah, I know. At the 44-minute and 17-second mark, I will never forget the timestamp on the EVP, or the recording rather. There is another odd series of waves. Really small. So whatever it was quiet. So it could have been us talking in the distance. It could have been anything. But it wasn't. I'll tell you that. It wasn't. We know the sound. It wasn't us. On that same recording that we got the, yeah, I know. In the distance, you hear somebody, and if you're prior military, you know what this word means. Maybe you do it if you don't know either. Sounding off. Sounding off. Imagine a person standing with the best posture they possibly can, feet at an exact 45-degree angle, and thumbs riding down the seams of your pants you're at attention, right? And your executive officer or your CO or your division commander, whatever, asks you a question, and they're in your face, and you're supposed to yell back. You see it in the movies. Yes, no, right? In the distance, we hear I'm an Army pilot, or I'm an Army private. And I could not tell what it said, but I tell you, I heard I am an Army pilot, or I am an Army private. And I had that on recording too. And I guarantee you, again, we're in the middle of nowhere. It's like 12 o'clock at night. Zach, Brandon, T, and I are down, and we don't, that wasn't our voice. I distinctly remember none of us saying that. Like, there's no reason we would say that. Not to mention, we constantly whisper most of the time because we're not trying to overlap the recording, and, you know, that type. It's just, and you try to enunciate when you do too, so it's a very distinct sound. This was somebody sounding off in the distance. I'm an Army private, or I'm an Army pilot, and it was incredible. What we associated that was with that dude that we go and the World War II guy. I didn't do any research into him. I probably should have. The World War II vet that was buried up there. But the long story short, that's my ghost story, guys. It is my truth. It is not your guys' truth. It is mine. It's my experience, and you guys, I'm just sharing it with you. That being said, though, I can tell you it was as legitimate as I could have got out of, like I said, 60 to 70 hours worth of EVP recordings, 20 to 30 hours straight of, not straight, but 20 to 30 hours of video recordings. We took the Mel meter, which measures the electrostatic, stuff in the air. We took, what else do we have? Infrared cameras and everything. All this stuff, all these different places, we got nothing but this. And this maybe took up a total, if you were to chop them up and put them together, 9 seconds worth of footage. So I immediately asked myself, hearing those voices. I hear the voices in my head. They're up here. Hearing those voices, what was it? What does that mean? What does it mean to me? We kind of went into it thinking that if we ever got something, we ever got some sort of evidence, it would mean something. It would tell us an answer. It would answer for us. It was our truth. Man, that didn't answer shit. That didn't answer if there's ghosts out there. That didn't answer, the first thing that came to mind, I'm not even gonna lie, is I associated it more, and I don't know why I'm saying this. I don't know why this is what pops into my mind even when I first heard it, but I associate that response to me, where he was responding to me talking, as almost like another freaking dimension that was like another universe, like a parallel universe style thing, where the veils were intersecting almost, right? That made more sense to me than a ghost. I don't. And so the long story short is, after maybe a total of 100 hours of footage and experiences and doing ghost hunting, I got 9 seconds of evidence, and that evidence did not prove the existence of ghosts, demons, anything supernatural. It just proved to me that I don't know. I always call myself an optimistically skeptic, or skeptically optimistic. And after that evidence, I remained the same. It did not change my thought process. It did not answer any questions. It just was cool, really. So, that's my ghost story, guys. Happy Halloween. Sorry it took me so long, 40 minutes now, in the dark of you guys just listening, to get to 9 seconds of footage and my actual paranormal experience, if that's what it was. Happy Halloween, guys. Be safe. Keep them kids safe, and just enjoy yourselves. If you guys got any cool actual ghost experiences, share them below. That would be fun. And yeah. And those of you that say, why am I watching some asshole talk in the dark? Like I've gotten comments before on my old truck chats. Happy Halloween.